A nun's encounter, a woman of unwavering faith, had dedicated her life to God. But even the holiest among us are not immune to the darkness that lurks in the shadows. Tonight we talk about the nun's terrifying encounter. A boy named Roland Doe, who is considered by some to be one of the first modern-day exorcists. And you won't believe what he saw. First up, we have Susan Marie, who actually made headlines in the media and was talking about in the news. Susan Marie claims to have been tormented by a sinister presence for most of her life. According to a dailymail.com interview, she describes experiencing disturbing visions and auditory hallucinations from a young age, around 2 or 3 years old. Raised in a challenging environment by parents she describes as involved in the occult, Susan also reports feeling a lifelong aversion to religious settings. Her experiences included unsettling visions of blood-stained windows and disturbing sounds of screams, which she interprets as demonic taunts. The torment left her feeling trapped, but a friend encouraged her to seek spiritual guidance. This led her to Father Carlos Martins, a Catholic priest with extensive experience in exorcism. According to Father Martins, the exorcism sessions were physically demanding. Susan Marie, restrained in a sturdy oak chair by several men, displayed significant physical strength during these encounters. She is reported to have overcome physical restraints, exhibiting unexpected strength and aggression. Father Martins recounted observing a range of extraordinary phenomena during his 2 decades of performing exorcisms, including instances of levitation, significant alterations in facial features, and a pronounced aversion to religious symbols and figures. He described one particular exorcism involving a middle-aged woman. As the ritual began, Father Martins recalled, she suddenly overpowered a large man tasked with restraining her. This individual, exceeding 6 feet in height and weighing over 300 pounds, was thrown across the room with surprising force. The woman then directed her attention towards a nearby light switch. Father Martins continued, remarkably, one of the screws securing the switch cover plate inexplicably detached and propelled itself through the air, embedding itself directly into her open hand. Later, during the same encounter, she struck me with considerable force, resulting in a facial injury that required 2 surgical procedures to repair. Absolutely terrifying if you asked me. Moving on to a Catholic priest says he knows the devil is real because he has come face to face with the demon himself. Father Carlos Martins, during his 20-year ministry, has conducted numerous exorcisms, ministering to individuals who reported experiencing auditory hallucinations, periods of unconsciousness, and unexplained wounds. Exorcists are frequently asked whether the demonic behavior depicted in the 1973 film The Exorcist is an accurate representation, stated Father Martins. Next we have Sister Agnes, a woman of unwavering faith who has dedicated her life to God. Cloistered within the ancient walls of St. Cecilia's Abbey, she found solace in prayer and meditation. Years of rigorous devotion had forged an unshakable connection to the divine, or so she believed. One night, as Sister Agnes lay peacefully in her small, austere cell, a chilling sensation washed over her. The air, usually thick with the scent of incense and tranquility, grew heavy and suffocating. A bone-deep cold seeped into her very marrow, despite the summer heat. Then, she saw it. Standing at the foot of her bed, bathed in an eerie, malevolent light, was a figure that defied description. Towering and grotesque, it possessed cloven hooves that seemed to writhe and shift. 2 burning crimson eyes, like embers of hellfire, fixed on her with an intensity that stole her breath. Terror, raw and primal, consumed Sister Agnes. The figure exuded an aura of pure evil, a suffocating presence that threatened to crush her very soul. Time seemed to freeze. The only sound was the frantic pounding of her own heart against her ribs. The figure remained motionless for a timeless eternity, its gaze unwavering, its presence a suffocating weight in the small room. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, it vanished, leaving behind a trail of icy air and a lingering stench of sulfur. Sister Agnes, shaken to her core, spent the remainder of the night in prayer, seeking solace and protection from the unseen forces that had invaded her sanctuary. The encounter left an indelible mark on her, shattering her sense of peace and leaving her forever haunted by the chilling image of the demonic entity that had stood before her. From the nun to the story of the whispering story of Roland Doe. In 1949, in the quiet suburbs of Maryland, a darkness began to seep into the home of the Mannheim family. Their young son, Robbie, once a vibrant and joyful child, started to change. The once familiar laughter was replaced by guttural growls. Playful antics morphed into violent outbursts. Furniture seemed to move on its own. Objects levitated, and a chilling, scratching sound echoed through the walls. The family was terrified. What unseen force had taken hold of their son? What evil spirit entity lurked within their seemingly peaceful home? Was it a creature with burning red eyes, resembling the devil? How many people can actually say they saw the devil and live to tell their story of what happened? This story could be very much real. It was the inspiration for The Exorcist. The Roland Doe case is widely believed to have served as a major inspiration for William Peter Blatty's 1971 novel, The Exorcist, which was later adapted into the iconic 1973 film. So even Hollywood believes in this story so much they turned it into a movie. The Anelise Michel case, a tragic event that unfolded in Germany during the 1970s. Anelise, a young woman, began to exhibit unusual behavior, including seizures, hallucinations, and disturbing vocalizations. While initially diagnosed with epilepsy, her condition worsened despite medical treatment. Her family, deeply religious, became convinced that she was possessed by demons. Despite initial reluctance, the local bishop eventually granted permission for exorcism rituals to be performed. Over the course of 10 months, Anelise underwent 67 exorcisms, conducted by 2 priests. These rituals involved intense prayers, fasting, and physical restraints. Tragically, Anelise's health deteriorated rapidly during this period. She refused food and water, leading to severe malnutrition and dehydration. Ultimately, she died at the age of 23.
The case of Kenneth Anger, the Hollywood occultist. Now, Kenneth Anger, an underground filmmaker in 1960s Hollywood, known for his films like Fireworks and Scorpio Rising, as well as his book Hollywood Babylon, was a self-proclaimed occultist, drawing inspiration from Aleister Crowley's Thelema and exploring themes of transgression and the dark side of Hollywood. He was actually quite obsessed with Aleister Crowley, who infamously called himself the B666. Anger wasn't just a fan. He followed Crowley's rituals, studied his books, and conducted real summoning ceremonies. Now, one of his closest collaborators, Bobby Beausoleil, claimed Anger attempted to summon the demon Lucifer during one of their ritual film shoots in the desert. Things spiraled. Beausoleil would later become part of the Manson family and commit assassinations. Crazy connection, I know. Anger himself descended into a strange madness, reportedly speaking in tongues, destroying his own films, and claiming to be possessed by demonic forces he had invited in. Whether you see it as madness, coincidence, or proof of something darker, Anger's life was never the same after those rituals. Anger's work is celebrated for its artistic vision, its exploration of transgressive themes, and its connection to the history of counterculture and the occult. The Exorcism of Anna Ecklund. Now, the girl who invited it in, Anna Ecklund, which was actually a pseudonym for Emma Schmidt, was a young American woman in the early 20th century who reportedly became possessed after experimenting with occult practices encouraged by her aunt, who was said to be practicing witchcraft. Now, this is an urban legend. Her 1928 exorcism in Iowa is one of the most thoroughly documented in the Catholic Church history. She alleged, demonic possession and exorcism occurred over several decades, culminating in an extensive exorcism that lasted from August 18th to December 23rd, 1928 in Erling, Iowa. Now, Ecklund was said to have exhibited symptoms, akin to possession beginning at age 14 and was 46 years old during her final exorcism by Father Theophilus Resinger, a Roman Catholic priest. Now, witnesses, claimed Anna levitated, spoke languages she had never learned, and exhibited unnatural strength. For 23 days, priests performed rites to banish what they said were multiple demons, including Beelzebub and Judas Iscariot. Now, according to records, Anna had tried to summon a spirit to communicate with her deceased mother. What she got was something else entirely. She survived, but never fully recovered. Her case was cited for decades as a warning against dabbling in summoning or spiritualism. Now, Ecklund's case is considered by theology and paranormal scholars to be one of the most abundantly documented cases of possession in the 20th century, including a profile in a 1936 issue of Time magazine. The Charlie Challenge. In 2015, a viral game called the Charlie Challenge swept the internet. Teenagers everywhere were placing pencils on paper and calling on Charlie, a supposed Mexican demon or spirit. Now, this game / internet urban legend of sudden and inexplicable popularity surged to the top of the global social media charts after kicking around on the Spanish language internet for much of eternity. Now, as of me even saying this right now, hashtag Charlie Challenge has been tweeted more than 1.6 million times. More people are Googling Charlie than virtually any other news event. Now, while it's hard to pin down an exact country of origin, Charlie has a long history as a schoolyard game in the Spanish-speaking world. Traditionally, this version with the cross pencils was called the Juego de la Lapicera, a term that still turns up lots of creepy stuff on Google, and Charlie was a distinct game played with colored pencils. At some point in their internet and playground travels, the two games seem to have merged. In either case, both have always had a demonic or supernatural connotations. One site calls La Pecera the poor man's Ouija board. Now, most teens trying Charlie laughed it off as just harmless fun until one incident in the Dominican Republic. A group of students performed the challenge at school. One girl began screaming uncontrollably, claiming she couldn't move her body. Several others fainted or started vomiting. Paramedics were called. Local authorities, declared a temporary school shutdown, saying the children were suffering from mass, hysteria. But priests were brought in as well. A few of the children were never the same after that. Some refused to sleep indoors, claiming something was watching them. One even attempted to take their own life weeks later, saying, "Charlie won't let me go." It was easy to dismiss at first, but the deeper you dig, the more similar reports you find across Latin America during that period. The Demon of Loftus. Now, this is the visitor that never left. The history of Loftus Hall, a large mansion house that's located along the Hook Peninsula, goes back through the centuries. The original hall was built in 1350 by the Redmond family during the time of the Black Death. Now, it was known as Redmond Hall until the 1650s when it was given to English planters, the Loftus family, and from then on was known as Loftus Hall. Now, Loftus Hall is rumored to be, Ireland's most haunted house. The large country house is built on the site where the original Redmond Hall was once located. People believe that the hall was visited by the devil himself, but his presence is not the only one that wanders the halls of this impressive building. In the 18th century in Ireland's Loftus Hall, a noble family received a very mysterious visitor. A storm, brought a well-dressed man to their door. He was polite, very handsome, charming, but one night while playing cards, Lady Anne Tottenham dropped one of her cards on the floor, and when she looked under the table, she saw the man's feet were not human, but hooves. She screamed, of course. He vanished in a flash of fire and smoke. Now, the family believed he was a demon she had accidentally summoned during private, seances that she held out of grief for her passed on lover. Now, Lady Anne was never the same. She became violent, was locked in a room, and she actually passed away in isolation. Now, visitors still say her ghost and the energy of that entity remains. Now, Loftus Hall is considered one of the most haunted places in Europe. The building, which stands today, was heavily renovated between 1872 and 1879 in preparation for a visit from Her Majesty Queen Victoria. The visit, though, never happened, and the Loftus family were left with huge debt following the major work carried out on the building. The last of the surviving Loftus family passed away back in 1890, and the bankrupt estate was actually put up for sale. In 2011, the house was sold to its current owners, the Quigley family. Now, the family have secured the structure and are, regenerating the walled gardens, the courtyard, and house to ensure the future of the Loftus Halls for the next generations. The Diary of Jake McKinnon, a Reddit ritual that went terribly wrong. In 2018, a Reddit user under the handle MCK_Jake posted a series of updates in the r-no sleep community about a summoning ritual he claimed to be trying. It started off as fiction, or so it seemed. He said he was following a grimoire, that he bought on the dark web, trying to summon a demon named Turan. The first few posts were funny, but then the tone shifted. He claimed the lights in his apartment would flicker, objects would move on their own, and he just couldn't sleep. In one video, you could see a shadowy figure pass behind him. Now, the final post said, "I messed up. I didn't bind it. I didn't follow the rules. I don't know how to send it back." Jake McKinnon's account went dark after that. A user tried to track him down through IP logs and emails, only to find the address linked to a police report about a man that was found passed away in his apartment surrounded by occult symbols. His face was said to be frozen in a look of terror. Now, to this day, some people claim the entity that he named Turan has shown up, in other rituals since. Many people debated his story and claims, though, because according to Etruscan mythology, Turan is a goddess, not a demon. She's the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility, often associated with the Greek goddess Aphrodite. She is frequently depicted as a young winged girl, embodying the grace and allure that, the Etruscans kind of revered. Now, whatever the case is, the story is creepy and concerning, and to this day, no one can seem to get a hold of Jake and know about his whereabouts. First, let's talk about the case of Roland Doe, also known as Robbie Mannheim. Now, in 1949, this 14-year-old boy from Maryland became the inspiration for William Peter Blatty's widely popular novel, The Exorcist. Roland had been experimenting with a Ouija board, trying to contact spirits when he allegedly became possessed by a malevolent entity. Now, the events that followed were nothing short of terrifying. Roland's family reported strange noises, furniture moving on its own, and unexplained events. The boy himself would go into trances, speaking in a very deep, frightening voice and exhibiting supernatural strength. Now, the Catholic Church eventually intervened, performing a series of exorcisms on Roland. The rituals were said to be so intense that they left the boy shaken and traumatized. In mid-1949, several newspaper articles printed anonymous reports of the alleged possession and exorcism. The source for these reports is thought to be the family's former pastor, Luther Miles Schultz, and according to one account, a total of 48 people witnessed this exorcism. According to author Thomas B. Allen, Father Walter was one of the last surviving eyewitnesses of the events and participated in the exorcism. Allen wrote that a diary kept by attending priest Father Raymond J. Bishop detailed the exorcism performed on Roland Doe. Now, speaking in 2013, Allen emphasized that definitive proof that the boy known only as Robbie was possessed by malevolent spirits is unattainable. Now, according to Allen, Halloran also expressed his skepticism about potential paranormal events before his death. When asked in an interview to make a statement verifying that the boy had actually been demonically possessed, Halloran responded saying, "No, I can't go on record. I never made an absolute statement about the things because I didn't feel I was qualified." This exorcism case inspired the novel, which in turn was adapted into the 1973 horror film of the same title, The Exorcist. The case also inspired the 2000 movie, Possessed, which is said to be closer to the story in Allen's book. A documentary was made of the case titled In the Grip of Evil. While the exact details of the events are still disputed, one thing is very clear. Roland's experimentation with spirit summoning had devastating consequences. Another case that comes to mind is that of the Perrin family. In January of 1971, Roger and Carolyn Perrin moved into a 14-room farmhouse in Rhode Island with their 5 daughters, only to discover that it was haunted by an evil spirit. It started very small. The family reported, all manners of paranormal activity, from unexplained noises and movements to physical attacks. Carolyn would notice that the broom went missing or seemed to move from one place to the necks by itself. She could hear the sound of something scraping against the kettle in the kitchen when no one was even in there. She'd find small piles of dirt in the center of a freshly cleaned kitchen. Their daughters would also say that they would notice spirits around the house and that they seemed angry. As the haunting, intensified, the parents sought the help of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren. Now, the Warrens, who were also involved in the Amityville horror case, believed that the spirit was the ghost of a witch who had been slaughtered on the property. The Warrens attempted to perform a cleansing ritual to rid the house of the malevolent entity, but however, the ritual was said to have awakened the spirit instead, making it even more aggressive. Now, the parents eventually fled the house, unable, of course, to cope with the intense paranormal activity. When the movie, The Conjuring, was released in 2013, it was met with critical acclaim. Critics everywhere praised it for its, all too very realistic portrayal of the demonic haunting of the innocent family in Rhode Island. Most viewers assumed that the movie was, nothing but the wild imagination of director James Wan. However, the true story of The Conjuring is actually rooted in the horrifying true experience of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed Warren was a World War II veteran and a former police officer who became a self-professed demonologist after studying the subject on his own. His wife Lorraine claimed to be a clairvoyant and medium who was capable of communicating with, the demons that Ed discovered. And in 1952, Ed and Lorraine founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, the oldest ghost hunting group in New England. They quickly gained notoriety as respected paranormal investigators after their initial investigation of the Amityville hauntings. Although the movies seem, over-dramatized and impossible to believe, the Warrens maintain that all of the events depicted actually transpired. Though Ed passed away sadly in 2006, Lorraine was a consultant on the film and claims that she didn't let the directors take any more dramatic license than was absolutely necessary. Last on my list to talk about is a well-documented case is that of Latoya Ammons, now an American woman who, along with her 3 children, experienced a series of terrifying paranormal events after conducting a Ouija board seance in their Gary, Indiana home. Shortly after, she began to experience strange occurrences, including hearing strange noises, seeing shadowy figures, and feeling a very intense, unsettling presence. She said she heard footsteps in the basement and doors opening and closing on their own. Desperate for answers, Latoya turned to a Ouija board, hoping to communicate with whatever entity was responsible for the haunting. She gathered her family and conducted a seance, asking, the spirit to reveal itself. According to Latoya, the entity responded, identifying itself as Zozo, a malicious spirit known for its dark and very sinister nature. Latoya and her family were initially, skeptical, of course, but as, the entity began to manifest itself, they realized they had made a very grave mistake. The entity Zozo began to wreak havoc on the family, causing physical attacks, unexplained noises. The family reported finding strange symbols etched into the walls and experiencing very intense, unexplained cold spots throughout the house. As the haunting intensified, Latoya and her family became convinced that they had summoned a very evil spirit and was determined to destroy them. The family reached out to their doctor on April 19, 2012, when he visited the house during, the supposed haunting. He actually noted that their behavior was just delusional. Someone from his office contacted the police and the children were taken to the hospital. The DCS actually initially believed that the children were just performing for their mother. In other words, making it all up for attention. But that wasn't true, and it's even alleged that her 9-year-old son was seen walking backwards up the wall in the presence of a family case manager as well as a hospital nurse. So once that happened, it really debunked that whole theory that they were making it up. The nurse made a statement that said, he walked up the wall, flipped over, and just stood there. There's no way he could have done that. The police captain named Charles Austin said it was the strangest story he ever heard and admitted that at first he thought the family was making it up in an attempt to just make money. But after several visits to their home and interviews with witnesses, he simply said, "I am a believer." Campbell says she remembers telling her daughter, "We need help. We need to talk to someone who knows how to deal with it." And so desperate for help, they turned to a local paranormal investigator who confirmed confirmed that the entity was indeed Zozo, a spirit that's known for its very dark and malevolent nature. Now, the family eventually fled their home, unable to cope, of course, with the intense paranormal activity. Latoya has since spoken publicly about her experiences, warning others of the dangers of using Ouija boards and summoning spirits. In 2024, Netflix released a movie called The Deliverance, which is said to be based on this exact case. The movie begins with a title card that reads, "The following story is inspired by true events." So if this has intrigued you, go give that a watch. And in 2014, a man named Zach Bargains actually purchased the house for $35,000 and demolished it in January of 2016 after filming a documentary in it titled The Demon House, which was released in 2018. So that's another one you can go watch. Now, these stories illustrate the potential dangers of spirit summoning.
First up, we have Incubus. This dark demon is said to take on the appearance of a male human who tries to impregnate unsuspecting women while they are asleep. Now, the goal of Incubus is to use his unsuspecting victims to birth demons and witches in order to create more servants of hell and devil worshippers. The word incubus is actually derived from the Latin language and directly translates to nightmare. So keeping that in mind, it only makes sense that this demon would appear in the shadows of the night to prey on his victims. It is not known how many dark beings Incubus could have fathered, but it is believed that the famous magician Merlin was actually created by Incubus. Many people believe that Merlin would actually spread dark magic in the towns that he traveled to while he was under the demon's control. Now, some people also believe that this demon has actually been summoned through a Ouija board on multiple occasions. There are many stories that people find their partners alone in bed doing some unspeakable acts by themselves. It also appears that any woman who has been a victim of Incubus has no recollection of the events that led to their eventual pregnancy. And once a Ouija board has been used to summon Incubus, it is incredibly hard to get rid of him. This is not as simple as opening a door and kicking someone out of your house when you want them to leave. Some of the oldest tricks that were used in the medieval era include covering your bed in black salt and burning special types of incense that Incubus really doesn't like. So unless you want to have a very disgusting visitor arrive in your home, the Incubus is one demon you should never activate with a Ouija board. So do you believe that Ouija boards are as dangerous as people claim? Give us your thoughts in the comments down below as we check out some more demons. Next up is Beelzebub. This demon is viewed as many different things by many different people, which brings up the possibility that it could be a real-life shapeshifter. Now, most demons have a clear goal that they want to achieve, and they have various ways of manipulating their victims in order to obtain what they want. Beelzebub loosely translates to Lord of the Flies, which has led many to believe that this demon could very well take on the appearance of a small insect. However, other stories have described Beelzebub as a large demon that actually commands a huge army of insect-like creatures. It is said that Beelzebub uses its many servants to cause destruction and wreak havoc on Earth through violent attacks. These servants are generally regarded as scum and excrement that are lurking in the deepest depths of the underworld. Some religious figures even believe that these servants are damned souls who are forced to carry out their Lord's dirty work for the rest of eternity. The Catholic Church especially fears Beelzebub, as he is even mentioned in the Bible. The scribes in Mark 3:22 have actually accused Jesus Christ himself of working directly with Beelzebub. Some believe that the Lord of the Flies was banishing evil spirits away from Earth on Jesus' orders so he could gain even more servants. Now, anything that commands an army of evil spirits and has the ability to shapeshift should not be taken lightly. Summoning Beelzebub with a Ouija board can enrage the demon and cause it to take over your day-to-day life. There have been reports of Beelzebub appearing in homes as a large dark mass that is most active at night. Other smaller paranormal events are likely the work of his minions, but this is one demon you do not want to mess around with. After that, we have Antoine Gay. This one may not sound as terrifying as a traditional demon, but it could be even more dangerous. Antoine Gay started out life as an ordinary human being, but he is infamously known as being one of the strongest cases of demonic possession to this very day. Antoine was a Frenchman who served in the military in the 1800s before becoming a carpenter in the city of Lyon. He then decided he wanted to begin the process of becoming a monk and was accepted as a lay brother at his local abbey. Now, things took a strange turn for him, however, when he shockingly decided to leave the church due to a complete nervous disorder. His sudden mood swings and his unexplained conditions quickly started to raise concerns that he had been possessed by a demon. He was examined by priests and other religious figures who reported that Gay spoke in a much deeper tone and began to share dark secrets of his life. He also started speaking in perfect Latin without ever studying the language or having any knowledge of it. Now, religious figures named the demon that had possessed Antoine Isacaro, but not much was known about the demon or its intentions beyond its name. Antoine Gay eventually passed away in the late 1800s due to various complications that priests believe were linked to the demon who had possessed him. But nowadays there are people who are convinced that Antoine Gay is still inhabiting our world as an evil entity. There are rumors that Issa Carl had passed its energy onto Antoine when he passed away, and he is now tormenting other souls all around the world. However, because of the mystery surrounding the original demon, no one is really sure how to stop it. Ouija boards are likely the easiest way to summon it, but there is no reason why anyone should even attempt to do that. Next on our list is Baphomet. This demon is another direct servant of Satan who was mentioned in texts as far back as the 11th century. He is described as a large winged beast with a goat head and a human-like body. Many paintings also show the words dissolve and coagulate tattooed on the demon's arms. Now this seems a little strange at first until you realize the main purpose of this demonic figure. Many believe that Satan had originally summoned Baphomet to destroy religion from the inside out. He would manipulate humans on earth to carry out some evil deeds and spread the word that religion was very bad for the soul. Of course, Baphomet needed a large following of loyal servants who would help him in his quest, and he didn't have a tough time finding them. The infamous Knights Templar that existed between the 12th and 14th centuries were apparently the main followers and direct servants of Baphomet. They would supposedly carry out all sorts of anti-Catholic rituals and actions, which included spitting on the cross. While the Knights were technically a military order that was supposedly fighting alongside the Catholic Church, some believe that they were actually fighting against it. Many people started to question the Templars' faith in the early 1300s, and some were convinced that they were worshipping demons. Then in 1307, it was King Philip IV who ordered the majority of the Knights to be arrested for worshipping Baphomet. This led to the of many members and the complete dissolution of the order. But if you thought that spelled the end of Baphomet altogether, then you would be very, very wrong. There are many anti-religious groups that still exist today, and many believe that they are actively summoning Baphomet to carry out their orders. While many evil spirits are keen on working with this terrifying demon, others are still actively fighting to banish him forever. And finally we have Lucifer. Now this evil figure is actually a fallen angel who is now believed to be the demon of pride. Now because pride is one of the 7 deadly sins, Lucifer's actions have resulted in him being labeled a demon by many in the Catholic Church. It is said that Lucifer was actually one of God's greatest creations, and many regarded him as a true son of God. While Lucifer was gifted a throne by God himself and was placed in the Garden of Eden to enlighten humans, his own self-pride eventually got the better of him. After witnessing the creation of Adam and Eve, Lucifer was ordered to bow to the original pair of humans. But in a defiant move of power, Lucifer declared that his creation was far superior and he refused to bow to Adam and Eve. Now some believe that Lucifer was incredibly brave to rebel against his creator, but God was not interested in hearing his argument. Lucifer was banished from heaven for his actions and is regarded as the first sinner for putting his own self-pride before God. His appearance as an angel quickly transformed into a demon who convinces people to develop egos. It is believed by many in the Catholic Church and others that egotistical people are the works of Lucifer himself as he leads them to their inevitable downfall. While many demons could be considered more dangerous due to their violent natures, Lucifer could actually be the most cunning of them all. His slow and steady manipulation of a person's ego can lead to some terrible choices in life that can have irreversible consequences. The estimated number of victims who have been manipulated by Lucifer throughout history is well into the millions. Summoning this entity through a Ouija board might not have an immediate impact on a person's life, but it will slowly crush them over time. There are definitely ways to fix a person who is possessed by Lucifer, but you'd be better off just keeping him far away from any Ouija boards.
Number 5. Niccolo Paganini. The first up on our list today of people who summoned the devil or a demon of some kind is Niccolo Paganini, who was once called the devil's violinist, which is quite the nickname. Looks great on a resume. I didn't know the devil really hired out help like that. Paganini, which does sound a bit like a delicious sandwich, was born in 1782 in Genoa, Italy. Under his father's influence, he was given lessons by renowned violinists, quickly becoming a prodigy. His musical talents were praised, and he was given all manner of scholarships. He had his first performance at 11, and by age 15, he was already touring around Italy performing. Just in case you needed something to compare yourself to and feel bad about your own achievements. Don't feel bad. I'm 26, I haven't toured Italy once. He was particularly well known for being able to perform recitals without sheet music. He memorized everything and was apparently able to play 12 notes a second at an inhuman speed. Now, while this could be explained by the fact that he'd been raised to play the violin in a Spartan German-like upbringing, locals around Genoa began to whisper and tell stories of how he must have sold his soul to be able to play the violin like that. It also didn't help much that Niccolo's pale, lanky, and quite ghost-like appearance made people a bit suspicious of the guy. I get it, as someone who's very tall, lanky, and ghost-like, people ask me all the time, Taylor, did you sell your soul to be so good at YouTube hosting? The answer? Yes. Paganini was a striking man with hollow cheeks, pale skin, and very long, thin fingers, which did not calm any of these rumors down. These things plagued his reputation, with people claiming outlandish things, saying they'd seen him with hooves, they'd seen him talking to the devil. Some say his violin was made out of the intestines of a woman he'd slain, and her soul was trapped in his violin, which I guess would make it sound beautiful. Now, in the end, Paganini would contract tuberculosis, and found himself getting weaker and weaker as the months and years went by. Before his death, he turned away last rites from a Catholic priest, saying he didn't need them because he wasn't going to die. He would pass shortly after. Was it because he'd already made his last rites with Satan, or was he just confident? It's up to you to decide. And if you're looking for more freaky stories of demonic possession, exorcisms, and all that jazz, we've got loads of that on the channel. If ghosts and goblins ain't your jam, we've got cryptids, conspiracies, aliens, government cover-ups, basically anything scary above or under the sun, we've covered it more than a few times. So click on through, hit that bell to not miss a single scream, but please, do that at the end of this video, okay? We got way more scary stories coming up for you. Number 4, Latoya Ammons. Our next entry on this list is Latoya Ammons and her mother, Rosa Campbell, involving an infamous haunting that is sometimes referred to as the 200 Demon House or the Demon House. That's a lot of demons. A family moved into a new house in Gary, Indiana, only to quickly discover that the house already had plenty of residents. They claimed that black flies would swarm the porch every single day in December in a climate that should reasonably have had them die off. Mother Rosa Campbell claims she heard footsteps in the basement and doors creaking, and witnessed a shadowy specter of a man pacing around her living room, claiming he was leaving behind boot prints. Now that's pretty scary. But the most wild claim was that this spirit man once choked her directly. Rosa's daughter Latoya claimed that she levitated above her daughter while unconscious during a sleepover, leading to her friend praying for her safety until she returned to the ground. Another wild incident describes an unknown force pushing the son of the family firmly into a wall, with a voice in the back of his head screaming, "It's time to die." Strangely, the family didn't decide to, burn the house down and move out and change state lines, but instead reached out to their family physician. You know the old saying, when there's something strange, who are you gonna call? Your local general practitioner. Well, the doc visited the house and noted that he thought the behavior of the family was delusional. So the family went to Father Michael Maganote in 2012, who was called in to perform an exorcism. He believed the family had unintentionally summoned a demon and were being tormented by hundreds of demons. And the real estate agent didn't mention that, did he? In the end, the father exorcised the house, and the Ammons family moved to Indianapolis in peace, where they now await a movie deal from 20th Century Fox, I'm certain. Number 3, Robert Johnson. Robert Johnson could play the blues real well. In fact, he played it so darn well that people suspected he wasn't just really in tune with the music, but had made a deal with the devil to pluck the strings. Johnson was born in Mississippi in May 1911 and lived alongside his 9 siblings. Good gosh, imagine the rush for the bathroom in the mornings. He eventually made his way to Memphis, where he discovered his love for the blues, and boy howdy could he play them. By all accounts, he was a legendary harmonica player, but initially his friends would describe him as a pretty lousy guitarist. Well, practice makes perfect, right? Well, practice and demonic transaction. Because the story goes that Johnson would disappear for a few weeks entirely and buried his guitar at the crossroads of the now famous Highways 49 and 61 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, where the devil retuned his instrument and blessed his hands with the unnatural skills that made him a legend. When he started playing again, he was an overnight master of the blues. Now, unfortunately, the blues is born out of tragedy, and Robert Johnson was sadly no different. He passed away at the fairly early age of 27, the infamous age in which rock stars and famous musicians are purported to die with an alarming regularity. Amy Winehouse, Kurt Cobain, to rattle off a few. What makes this particular death odd, though, is how few details exist. His death was never reported, no autopsy ever performed, no cause ever given. The only thing we have to go on is local folklore. One in particular tells the story of Johnson playing at a country dance. where Johnson had been flirting with a married woman, and she gave Johnson a bottle of whiskey, which was slapped out of his hands by Sonny Boy Williamson, another musician at the exact same show. And he told him not to drink anything that he hadn't personally seen the lid come off of, which is fairly good advice. And Johnson responded by saying, "Don't ever knock a drink out of my hand." Johnson would die in a convulsive state 3 days later, with some believing that he'd been poisoned by the woman and her husband as revenge. Or perhaps it was just the devil coming back for the merchandise that he'd paid for, his soul. Number 2, Agrippa. Heinrich Cornelius Agrippa was a scholar living in the 15th century with one of the coolest names ever. Corny Agrippa. Agrippa devoted his life to writing about the occult. Now, I can freely talk to you about the occult, the devil, and all manner of blasphemous heretical things, but things haven't always been so liberal. And way back when, even so much of breathing about the devil was tantamount to sinning, so Agrippa was not a man without controversy. He wrote of the devil in great, intricate detail. His books would include information breaking down exactly how witches cast spells and perform incantations and rituals, and even shared where they get all of their cool outfits, big hats, and big stomping boots. It's mostly Hot Topic and Doll Skill. So where did Agrippa get all of this information? Was he just making it up? Was he really in tune with the local scene? Kind of. He claimed that when he was a young man, he gave in to the temptation of Satan and ran with a convent of witches, going around engaging in rituals and casting spells, and I gotta be honest, that sounds awesome. I did a similar thing when I followed Grimes on tour. Eventually, Agrippa is said to have cleaned up a little, got over his goth phase, and said to have found Jesus and saved his soul, and began to write books preaching the good word about how you should let Jesus in your life and push the devil on out of here. Surprisingly, Agrippa was never executed despite his open nature regarding his witchcraft and occult days. It's a common misconception that he was executed for his heresy, but actually in the end, Agrippa pushed people to be more understanding of demons and the devil, and pushed for people to know their enemy. He wanted to save people from the devil's grasp and save them through prayer rather than just burning them all at the stake, which is a noble goal. And number 1, Anna Ecklund. Perhaps you've heard the story of Anna Ecklund before. We've covered it on the channel, I think, and it was made into a popular movie, appropriately enough titled The Exorcism of Anna Ecklund, so you don't confuse it with any other exorcism movies out there. Now, Anna's story is infamous. She's a young woman from America who has the dubious award of having the world's longest exorcism, spanning decades of exorcising. Those demons were in there good. Those are demons with like rent control. You're not getting them out of that apartment. It will begin in 1912 when Ecklund underwent an exorcism by Father Theophilus Reisinger, a Bavarian priest. It seemed like things were successful and Anna was freed, but then in 1928, Anna began exhibiting all the telltale signs of demonic possession yet again, and Reisinger returned to perform a second exorcism on Ecklund. Ecklund was taken into a convent on August 1928 to be dealt with round the clock. She would behave oddly, to say the least, hissing at them like a cat, flying into fits of violent rage when offered food that had been doused in holy water. This exorcism was brutal even by exorcism standards, with Ecklund allegedly levitating, howling, hanging out the door frame. Ecklund was believed to be possessed by not just any old rank-and-file demon, but allegedly was possessed by Judas Iscariot, big celebrity demon inside, alongside the ghost of her own father. Alongside the ghost of her own father, who had an affair with her aunt and had made unwanted advances to Anna in life. After months of exercising, and not the good kind, Anna's body deteriorated. She would vomit up debris, her head and face swelled, she refused to consume food or drink. Eventually, after months and years of exorcism, on December 23rd, the final day of the exorcism, the battle was won and Anna was freed, and by all accounts went on to live a fairly normal life afterwards. A Christmas miracle if there ever was one.
Coming in at number 5, we've got Aaron Layton. Authors tend to be a reclusive sort. So many tales exist detailing a storyteller's retreat to the wilderness to find peace so that they can pen their next great work. Someday, that'll be me, and you'll never hear from me again. But until then, I'll just look at others and their foolhardy demon dealings. See, being alone in the woods tends to also inspire people to look deep within and find out what they truly desire. Without the distractions of modern life, other people, and a strong Wi-Fi connection, folks have to face down plenty of hard truths. If these truths are difficult enough, or if their dreams are big enough, they might be tempted to strike up a deal with the demon. I'm not sure if Aaron Layton had actually done this or not, but his children's book seems to imply that he's an expert in this field. He wrote a book called A Children's Book of Demons, and inside are a bunch of fun and funky illustrations detailing demons the world over. Accompanying these illustrations is plenty of prose, encouraging children to be creative while dealing with their problems. It's kind of an edgy concept for a kid's book, but nothing too insane. However, it got lots of attention upon being published, drawing the ire of exorcists, religious leaders, and uptight parents everywhere. The book encourages readers to imagine demons, draw sigils, and attempt to use these strategies to assist them in their daily life, like a kid's Bible storybook, but more in line with Satanism. Most would look on and get a good chuckle out of this, but the previously mentioned folks condemned the tome, claiming that it would imbue the children with evil energies and ruin their lives. This leads me to assume two things. One, Aaron Layton knows enough about demons and Satanism to write a book that will offend people, and in his studies might have summoned one or two. Maybe they helped him write it. And two, some of the parents who ended up buying this book for their kids actually witnessed some demonic activity. Nobody would be getting so up in arms about something totally harmless, so there must be at least a little bit of power here. I wonder what the kids use their demons for. Maybe acing a spelling bee or getting extra helpings for dessert. Number 4, Charlie. Staying on the topic of children summoning demons for a moment, let's discuss this viral smash hit of a demon summoning trend. Remember when this was all anyone was talking about? Oh boy. Part Bloody Mary, part Ouija, and part internet challenge, Charlie took the Western world by storm. It kind of inspired its own miniature satanic panic as concerned parents and news organizations rushed to understand the appeal of the game. In fact, I bet it would have all blown over much more quickly if folks just calmed down a little. But kids and teens across the nation were playing this game and supposedly successfully summoning a demon. Charlie, if you couldn't tell. The game works like this. Set up a little 2x2 grid and a piece of paper, writing yes and no in each of the squares. Once this is ready, balance 2 pencils perpendicularly atop each other so that one can sort of spin freely. Now you're ready to play. Chant Charlie and ask some questions. Apparently if the top pencil moves, that means Charlie is present. Is he good? Is he bad? Who knows? But a lot of folks took advantage of this interesting stationary-based phenomenon and claimed that they had managed to summon real demons. After asking some particularly salacious questions, they got answers they didn't like and began freaking out. Did this really hurt anyone? It's questionable, but like I said before, it inspired a whole lot of new coverage and panic amongst the morally upright who believed that the kid would encourage their kids to take their paranormal investigations a step further. It's been a while since someone went viral for playing Charlie, and I can't say that I've seen any major new updates concerning folks who supposedly summon demons. So maybe it was a temporary visit, one without lasting effects, but who knows? Somebody test it out for me, alright? Let me know if Charlie's still kicking and what he offers in exchange for a soul. Coming in at number 3, we've got Robert Johnson. A classic tale is that of the Faustian deal. Somebody wants something so bad that they're willing to give up their soul for it. Success in life, and then an eternity of servitude to a dark force in the afterlife. Worth it. Robert Johnson decided he wanted to be the ultimate blues guitarist and would give anything to make that happen. Some say that he sold his soul to the devil for the skills required. When he played, his talent was so impressive that much of his audience had no choice but to believe it was acquired through paranormal means. I'm sure that did a lot for his ego. Looking into this story, it's said that he met a devil at a crossroads and Satan tuned his guitar for him. Tenacious D who. The devil went on to teach Johnson how to master the blues, which was the prevalent guitar genre at the time, and from then on he was a genius on the fretboard. No one could keep up with him, and he impressed countless listeners. However, he was met with an unfortunate fate, which only served to intensify the rumors about his skill. At the young age of 27, he passed away with foul play suspected. By that time, though, he had produced 6 studio records and thrilled folks across America. If your legacy lives on for ages like his, is that a fair trade-off for an early death? We can't ask Johnson himself, but I'm sure he'd have a strong opinion on that one. Coming in at number 2, we've got Sid White. Originally interested in witchcraft, Sid gradually became aware of and enamored with demons. Believing that a demon is an entity that has wandered our earth for ages, possibly even for eternity, he has supposedly summoned demons on multiple occasions. The rituals remain largely the same across the board, but small changes can affect what demon you'll summon. Write this down. You'll need a dark room, candles, herbs, a Ouija board, and blood. All pretty easily attainable, don't you think? Especially that blood bit. You're full of it. From there, you need to know a specific spell or chant, especially if you're looking for a specific demon. Knowing what you're getting into is pretty important too, because if you're summoning demons willy-nilly, you're gonna have a bad time. A lot of people choose to summon demons to strengthen their connection with another world. This allows those who do so to draw increased strength and insight and hopefully improve their life some. However, Sid refuses to talk about what happens once he summons a demon. That's his private time, apparently. I mean, there are a lot of things people do behind closed doors that they probably don't want to discuss with the world at large. I pulled a lot of this info from an interesting article on Vice, and I'm sure Sid didn't want all the Vice readers to know his secrets. Check out the article if you want some more insight though. It'll be in the description. Coming in at number 1, we've got Niccolò Paganini, another masterful musician making morbid arrangements under cover of dark. Paganini was well known for being able to do things no other musicians could even dream of. As a child, he was a wunderkind, quickly picking up and becoming proficient in all sorts of different musical instruments. Being a child prodigy comes with a lot of pressure though, I'm sure. By the time he was a teenager, he was an alcoholic. However, he managed to overcome this, and in his early 20s, he became a well-regarded star, composing complicated and popular pieces of music and performing all over Europe. Some of the stuff he composed, nobody else could even attempt to play for years. He could play 3 octaves across 4 strings in one hand on the violin, and won a Stradivarius for sight reading a supposedly impossible piece. One of his most famous compositions was called Witch's Dance, which raised even more eyebrows. So maybe in his darkest hours of alcoholism, he reached out to a higher or lower power and asked for power beyond his wildest dreams. Either that, or he decided to get it together. He supposedly had really long fingers too, which may have helped with his incredible musicality. Striking up deals, looking for power, and wondering what might be on the other side. All good reasons to summon a demon, but also maybe not great reasons. But hey, it's your life.
Number 5, the cult of Dionysus. The cult of Dionysus has sparked dark speculations and controversies over many years. It's a highly secretive organization, and knowing what exactly occurs within the privacy of members is unknown. Just to list a few of the many theories, here are some of the dark speculations and controversies surrounding the cult of Dionysus. Quote, excess and madness. The cult's celebration of intoxication and ecstasy led to accusations of excess and madness. Critics argued that the excessive consumption of wine and the frenzied behavior of cult participants could lead to a breakdown of societal order and morality, moral and social disruption. Many in the ancient world viewed the Bacchanalian and Dionysian festivals as a threat to established social norms. The rejection of traditional roles and the temporary suspension of societal rules during these festivals raised concerns about moral and social disruption. Bodily liberation. Some Dionysian rituals were associated with liberation and promiscuity. Some believed that these practices would lead to licentious behavior and the erosion of traditional family structures. Foreign influence. The cult of Dionysus was often associated with foreign influence and was viewed with suspicion by those who feared the introduction of foreign beliefs and practices into their culture. Accusations of political subversion. In some instances, the cult was seen as a potential threat to political stability. Rulers and authorities worried that the Dionysian festivals could be used as a cover for political subversion or rebellion. Mystery and secrecy. The secret and exclusive nature of some Dionysian rites gave rise to speculations and conspiracy theories. The mystery of religion aspect of the cult fueled rumors and concerns about what might be happening behind closed doors. Tragedies and harm. The association of Dionysus with tragedy in Greek drama led to the belief that participation in Dionysian rituals could result in real-life tragedies and harm. End quote. Though the speculations likely do hold some truth, being able to definitively answer whether any or all of these theories are true is impossible. Records of the cult's activity were often exaggerated through misunderstandings or misinterpretations of the cult's practices. But it is thought that many of the rituals have been spotted throughout history, hinting that the cult may not be as inactive as many think. Number 4, the Blackburn cult. May Otis Blackburn's cult, which is referred to with many names, including the Order of the Doves and, of course, the Blackburn cult, was a controversial religious movement that emerged in Los Angeles, California. The cult's beliefs and practices were described as a combination of mysticism, apocalyptic prophecies, and unorthodox spiritual teachings. The cult was unofficially founded in the early 1920s, centering its teachings on the notion that May Otis Blackburn, their leader and founder, was a chosen prophet, selected by divine divine forces to guide followers through the impending end of the world. May claimed to receive direct revelations and instructions from angels and other spiritual entities. She warned her followers to prepare for the looming apocalypse, leading them into believing that only they would be saved from the cataclysmic events she spoke of. The beliefs also included select sections of witchcraft and mysticism, which actually led to legal troubles for May Otis Blackburn and her followers. In 1929, she, along with her son Raymond, faced a high-profile trial in which they were accused of practicing witchcraft and defrauding their followers. The trial received significant media attention and portrayed the cult as a group of radicals who manipulated their members for personal gain. May Otis Blackburn was a writer also. She produced numerous books and pamphlets to spread her religious doctrines and apocalyptic visions. These writings played a crucial role in spreading her teachings and attracting new converts to the Order of the Doves. Despite the cult's strange practices and legal challenges, it managed to gather a following during its existence. However, the relentless scrutiny from the law surrounding a certain body found under a house frequented by the cult and disturbed opinions from the public ultimately led to its disbandment. May Otis Blackburn's life took a quieter turn after the cult's dissolution, and she passed away in 1951. But to this day, it's not known certainly whether there are still practicing members, whether it be people who grew up in the cult or those whose parents raised them under the set of beliefs. Number 3. Order of Nine Angels. The Order of Nine Angels, or the ONA, is one of the most mysterious and highly controversial groups in the world of modern Satanism and the occult. The ONA was founded in the UK in the 1960s, promoting extreme and often dangerous forms of Satanism. Its core beliefs and practices are complex and unconventional, which has led to bouts of intense debate and controversy from Satanists and non-practicing communities alike. The heart of their philosophy is the concept of the sinister tradition, which is a radical, committed path that encourages members to challenge societal norms and embrace chaos and darkness. They view Satan as a symbol of rebellion against the established order, advocating for personal transformation through dark and sometimes harmful experiences. One of the most notorious aspects of the ONA is its advocacy for culling, a term they use to describe acts of harm and even Homo sapien sacrifice. Some of the ONS's writings are extremely dark and grossly disturbing, further demonstrating their deeply antisocial and extremist perspective. While they remain a highly secretive, tight-knit, and controversial group, their writings and philosophy have managed to spread widely and even found their way into other areas of the occult, impacting various forms of alternative spirituality. The Order of the Nine Angels remains a fringe and extremist organization to this day. Their beliefs and practices are widely criticized and condemned for their proud and loud promotion of harm and extremism. As with any belief system, it's important to approach their beliefs with caution and to be aware of the potential harm and danger it can pose, especially if it's taken to the extreme. Number 2. Sachiko Eto. The bizarre and disturbing saga of Sachiko Eto, the woman who would come to be known as the Drumstick Killer, began in 1990. It all started when her husband suffered a back injury, which not only incapacitated him, but also led him down a very dark path of drinking and gambling, which ended up pushing the couple into very deep debt, which eventually forced them to sell their home and move to a different town. In their new town, they became involved with a religious group, which was deeply involved in spiritual faith healing. But their involvement didn't last long because they used the organization's name without permission and were expelled. This led to Eto's husband experiencing a mental breakdown and disappearing without a trace in 1992. With her husband gone, the descent into her heinous actions began. She moved approximately 100 miles north of Tokyo and started performing spiritual healings. Eto proclaimed that she was a healer and a psychic, gradually making increasingly grandiose claims. She eventually declared herself a god who possessed the power to drive demons out of people. These statements quickly attracted a large following of devotees who flocked to her for services. Eto's cult grew quickly, with over a dozen believers and their family members living in her home and participating in rituals. Her rituals, involving drumstick beatings meant to end the dirty body and purify the soul, quickly escalated in aggression. She accused some of her followers of being possessed by a bad fox and had them beaten until they were hardly alive. In June of 1995, less than 3 years after Eto moved, one of Eto's followers was hospitalized with severe injuries from a ritual. This follower also reported that her husband had abruptly disappeared after visiting Eto's house. This raised suspicions and led the police to search the premises, where they uncovered a truly horrific scene. 6 decomposing bodies, 2 men and 4 women, were discovered, some mummified and wrapped in futons. All of their lives were ended due to the harm inflicted during Eto's rituals. Eto, her daughter, and a man named Yutaka Nemoto and another follower were arrested and charged with the deaths. Eto's survivor, who had reported the cult, was also arrested. Eto initially claimed that the deaths were unintentional and were simply a part of a religious exorcism. The trial resulted in Eto receiving a life-ending sentence, while her accomplices received prison sentences ranging from 18 years to life. On September 27, 2012, at the age of 65, Eto was hanged after several unsuccessful appeals, hopefully ending the belief system that she created, but no one's quite sure. Number 1. Temple of the Black Light. The Temple of the Black Light, which can also be referred to as the Misanthropic Luciferian Order, MLO, which is what I will be calling it because it's the shortest name. The MLO is a group associated with left-hand path spirituality and philosophy. MLO was founded in Sweden in the early 1990s, and it has gained popularity in cult theorists for its unique approach to Satanism and the left-hand path. The central notion of the MLO is the self-created worship that they call Chaos Gnostic Satanism. What sets them apart from many other satanic groups, MLO's beliefs are rooted in a drastic form of nihilism and a deep desire to embrace chaos, darkness, and spiritual rebellion. Honestly, real. They believe in an intangible force called chaos, which they see as a destructive, creative, and transformative entity that has great power and aims to oppose the order and constraints of the universe. MLO's members revere Lucifer as a symbol of enlightenment, liberation, and defiance against traditional religious and societal norms. However, their interpretation of Lucifer is much different from popular depictions of him. To them, Lucifer represents a dark and chaotic force that opposes established religion and the moral codes of society. The MLO is known for its extreme and often controversial writings, which explore the esoteric beliefs of the religion in depth. Their texts often feature highly complex and cryptic symbolism, which is intended to be understood by those who are deeply committed to the group's philosophy, and not for those outside. I mean, that's a good way to reject skeptics. Like, if skeptics were like, dude, this text doesn't make any sense, the members could just say, yeah, well, duh, you wouldn't get it. You can't sit with us. The Temple of the Black Light is considered a highly controversial group within the broader satanic community as well. They are criticized for their extremist and nihilistic views, as their beliefs are not an accurate representation of traditional satanic traditions and beliefs, which normally encompass a wide spectrum of beliefs and practices. The Temple of the Black Light actually remains a small and secretive group that's still active to this day.
Number 5. The Ouija board. Starting this list off because, well, this one's pretty obvious, and there's some even weirder ones ahead, so buckle up. The Ouija board is a board game most popularized by teens in the 1970s, when fads were at a heightened time. The Ouija board has earned its reputation over the years, although it was created almost 100 years before that. Go on. The year is 1891, and as the first ads started appearing in papers, Ouija the Wonderful Talking Board. Extra, extra, read all about it. The title from a Pittsburgh toy and novelty shop. The first paper described a magical game that answered questions about the past, present, and future with marvelous accuracy. An advertisement in a New York newspaper titled it interesting and mysterious as proven at patent office before it was allowed. Price? $1.50. Okay, so chilling and affordable. A flat board with the letters of the alphabet configured into 2 semicircles, above the numbers 0 through 9, the words yes and no in the upper corners, goodbye at the bottom. No batteries included nor needed. A planchette, like a little teardrop-shaped tool used to maneuver about the board. Sounds simple enough. The idea was that 2 or more people would sit around the board and place their fingertips on the planchette and ask a question out loud. After a moment or two, the planchette seemed to start moving to the corresponding letters, spelling out an eerie message from who knows where. The origins are messy, and it's hard to pinpoint who or what inspired early attempts at this game and its humble beginnings. It kinda just appeared on the shelves. Spooky. After the 1850s, the Fox sisters of New York had popularized spiritualism, and the US started flooding with the interest in spirituality. towing the line of religion-related thrill-seeking. The Kennard Novelty Company exclusively made and marketed these talking boards. One thing, however, is that they didn't have a name for this new game. Apparently, the lore goes that one of the men who also owned and founded Kennard Toys' sister was a medium, and when asked the board what it would like to be called, to which it responded, Ouija. When asked what the name meant, it responded with, good luck. Terrifying! Hey, at least good sportsmanship. Good lucks and good games. Kind of nice touch before it spells out your fate, no? One thing I know for sure is that I'm never playing this game. Number 4, hide and seek alone. Hide and seek alone has gotten some pretty dramatic online traffic throughout the past 20-ish years. Results from people who try it, write about it, and avoid it are all pretty interesting to say the least. Though it's a bit of an elaborate ritual, the game, you summon a ghost into a doll or stuffed animal at around 3 a.m. and then invite the possessed doll for a friendly game of hide and seek. First off, who's doing this? Second off, it's 3 a.m. I'm old. I'm sleeping by this point. Third, I don't do dolls, man. Creepy. Surfacing in the 2000s on the deepest spots of the web, this frightening and spiritually challenging game has made waves and enforced that serious problems could arise if played wrong. How do you mess up hide and seek? Ah, found you. In some cases, the rituals call for very specific details. Other times, a very loose game setup. Some dolls were even stuffed with rice instead of cotton, and apparently toenails from the player for a DNA connection were added to the object. It's at times like these that these legends start sounding very fake. Or do they? Sometimes needing red sewing string to stitch and repair the now ready teammate, the ritual has been started. The game is played at 3 a.m. and some say 3:33 is the ideal time to play, in which the player washes the doll and explains to it the rules of the game and the participants playing. I will hide, and you will come find me. It's always when you're hiding that you all of a sudden have to pee. So bad. Always. And what happens when the doll finds you? Apparently the deep web has story after story about the countless effects on this game and doesn't recommend it, due to all the stresses to come after. Apparently the process of ridding the spirit of your home at the end of the game has been the most challenging part. Who'd have thought? Would help if there was an instruction manual, of course. Of course I won't be playing this game at any time soon, I'll be sleeping at that hour. Much safer. Number 3, CE5. Demonic forces come in many shapes and sizes. I chose this topic next on the list because I feel that this is the way we're headed, and it's absolutely terrifying for our world, and theirs. Dr. David M. Greer is an American ufologist and founder of the Center for Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence and director of the Disclosure Project. CSETI started in 1990 to create a civil and research-based initiative to contact ET civilizations. The group defined CE5, or Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, as human-initiated contact and communication with ET life. CSETI claims to have over 3,000 confirmed reports of UFO sightings by pilots alone, and CSETI has designed a protocol for human-initiated contact to UFOs using a form of consciousness. Oh yeah, and high-grade military lasers. Namaste, dude. Hey, that's pretty sick. The goal of which to publicly disclose the government's alleged knowledge of UFOs. I'm all for it. Extraterrestrial intelligence, and of course, advanced energy and propulsion systems. The summoning part comes in the form of Greer's overnight trips to see these ETs in person. This week-long intensive workshop is limited to about 25 guests and provides an intensive training program with Dr. Greer, which each night will go out and make contact using the very effective CE5 contact protocols. Located in Costa Mesa, California, researchers can expect to be alongside him for a lesson in meditation and consciousness. Greer has an audiobook out on how to summon ET craft yourself, and has numerous documentaries surrounding the topic. What do you think? Is this guy a real deal? I think so. Especially with all this UAP NASA stuff that's going on. Who knows? Number 2, Furbies. If you grew up in the 90s like me, then you must remember Furbies. They were everywhere. And then all of a sudden, nowhere. A Furby is an American electronic robot toy that was originally released in 1998 by Tiger Electronics. It resembles an owl or gremlin-like creature and went through a period of being a small craze to have become an overnight sensation in the 90s. Following its holiday season launch, with continual sales up until the year 2000, over 40 million Furbies were sold during the 3 years of its original production, with 1.8 million sold in 1998 and 14 million in 1999. Its speaking capabilities were translated into 24 languages, and this is where it starts getting messed up. And I know, because I had one. Furbies were the first successful attempt to produce and sell out domesticated enhanced AI systems. A newly purchased Furby starts out speaking entirely Furbish, the unique language that all Furbies use. Cute. But it's programmed to start using English words as soon as it learns them, in place of Furbish over time, as it just sits there, listening to you. Or sometimes even in the middle of the night, demonically talking to you. Remember that? The voices? Feed me, feed me. This process is intended to resemble the process of gibberish and learning English slowly. So sophisticated for its time. The updated Furby with voice recognition and more complex facial movements was sold by Hasbro between 2005 and 2007. Another updated Furby with even LCD eyes and a mobile app was released for the holiday season in 2012. There were a couple of red flags that had us convinced they were possessed right from the beginning. First off, they don't speak with batteries. Even if the entirety of the wiring is ripped out of them, they wake you up in the middle of the night, usually saying some messed up shit from the other room, and would occasionally start speaking in tongues. I know, because I heard it. I'm pretty sure that's all the red flags and requirements of a haunted toy, people. And number 1, haunted video game. The Haunted Majora's Mask cartridge story, commonly referred to as Ben Drowned, is a creepypasta story and deep web find. This one personally gives me chills just thinking about it because I've personally watched a 5-hour speed run of this craziness. Please do some homework, you must, on this one. Not only because Majora's Mask is a beautiful game, but the crazy horror urban legend that was born is very scary. The story retells paranormal events that occurred to a sophomore gamer on a college campus upon receiving a secondhand Nintendo 64 cartridge from a friend claiming that he had received the game from an old man throwing out free games. Excited, the gamer tore home and tore into this game. But then, he begins to notice misplaced and missing graphics, added scenes, and even strange connections to a boy named Ben, who was said to have died 8 years before, from within the game. Huh? Majora's Mask is already scary enough. The story attracted many believers from all across the Zelda fandom community, including myself, and still does time to time, although sources have confirmed that this is just a story made up from developers and run to consumers. You got me, dude. I sat through like 6 hours of Link snapping his back, terrified.
Coming in at number 5, we have Holder. Holder is a witch who is rumored to live deep within the forest, secluded from the rest of the world. It is said that if you get lost in the woods, it is usually due to the influence of Holder's magic. She influences children to wander off on their own so that she may trap them. She has also been known to offer magical favors to children who find her. She just requests in return they visit her again with their friends or siblings. Once Holder has captured and trapped the children, she will cook and consume them, leaving no evidence behind that they were ever there. If she doesn't eat the children herself, she will serve them to the next children who find her home as a sick punishment. It is believed that Holder once had a daughter. The daughter was evil and was using dark magic to hurt people, including the rest of Holder's family. When Holder lost everyone who she cared for, she destroyed her daughter to make sure she could never hurt anyone again. Since then, she has spent her days luring children to her and destroying them as she did her own daughter. So don't wander off if you're ever walking in the woods, and absolutely do not summon Holder, or you might notice kids going missing around your neighborhood. Coming in at number 4, we have Agatha Harkness. Agatha is one of the original witches from Salem, though she was not caught. She started as one of the lower witches of her coven, but quickly rose in the ranks amongst her fellow witches. It is said that she practices dark magic. Her mother was once one of the greatest witches. She was confronted by the rest of her coven for practicing dark magic, something that was not allowed. They attempted to destroy her for her crimes, but they did not realize how strong her power was. Not realize how strong her power was. She drained the power from every other witch in the coven, including her mother, making her the most powerful witch in Salem. It is said that since then she has continued to practice her dark magic, never encountering a witch as powerful or as cunning as she is. She is an evil witch who can manipulate the minds of those around her to commit horrible acts. She is not someone who you would like to cross or make angry. She also has the ability to wipe the memories of those who she controls, meaning they don't even know that it was not their decision to commit their crimes. It is said she still resides in Salem, where her coven once called home. Although it is not clear where, there are a number of historical sites in Salem one could visit if looking for Agatha. If you did want to contact her for some dark reason, it does not come easy. You have to make a sacrifice for her to bother making an appearance. She requires a personal sacrifice of something that you love, whatever that may be for you. Maybe burning your childhood toy or something else you were attached to emotionally. If you do summon her, you might not get what you wanted. If she likes you, she might grant whatever you seek, but if not, you might unleash a great evil not only on yourself but back onto the world. I think it would be best for everyone that we leave Agatha to whatever realm she is currently hiding in. Coming in at number 3, La Llorona. Is she just a legend, a ghost, or maybe a witch? Some believe La Llorona to be a powerful witch. How else would she have remained so strong in the mortal realm after her death and able to trap so many victims? The story of La Llorona is that long ago a woman named Maria married a rich man with whom she eventually had 2 children. Then their marriage hit a rough patch. Her husband spent less and less time at home, and whenever he was home he paid attention only to the children. Eventually she sees him with another woman. Enraged beyond reason, some versions claim Maria drowned her 2 children, but she immediately regretted it, crying out, "Oh my children!" Maria is sometimes said to have drowned herself afterwards. However, not everyone believes that she did drown herself. Some say her rage sent her deep into seclusion, where she turned mad and began studying dark magic. She wanted revenge from what her husband had done to her, but she got lost in her grief and rage and forgot her original reason. All she could think of now was her children and the anger she felt. Now she roams the earth looking to steal children from their mothers. Children are warned not to go out in the dark, for La Llorona might snatch them, throwing them to their deaths in the flowing waters. There is one warning: if La Llorona is stalking you as one of her next victims, you will hear her crying. Once you hear this, there is little that can be done to stop her. If you were to summon her, she would not benefit you in any way. There is no bargain you could strike with her. She only knows pain and destruction. Coming in at number 2, we have Sally the Dunstable Witch. The story of Sally came from the late 19th century about an elderly woman who lived in Dunstable, Bedfordshire. She was allegedly a little old lady living alone with her cat. When perhaps out of boredom or being fed up with her life, she turned to the dark arts. Allegedly, the town found out about her practicing dark magic. They stormed her house and pulled her into the town square. They proceeded to burn her at the stake. But Sally had planned for this. Somehow, she found a way to survive the burning and took a new form. As she burned, she cursed the village and promised to get revenge. On her return, she was plaguing the church, performing her magic to make the village believe the devil was among them. Scared, they called in an exorcist. He discovered Sally and her magic. It is said that he backed her into a corner and was able to trap her. Once trapped, they buried her in the graveyard. It is said that they gave her grave a peephole, as they always wanted to tell that she was still in there. The townspeople were terrified she would once again return to terrorize them. She is still used as a tale to this day to get the children to behave, saying if they didn't, she might return. Maybe if you found her grave, you could peer in to see if she is still trapped, or maybe she's already escaped. And finally, in at number 1, we have Guona. The Guona is a creature in Canterbury legend, resembling a disfigured human female. She is thought to resemble one of the many forms of witches and hags of medieval Europe. She is covered from head to toe in an old thin black cloak. Her hands and feet are gnarled legs. Her face is yellow and consumed by rough and hairy warts. Her eyes are tiny and bright as stars. Her aquiline nose and mouth contain a single black razor-sharp teeth, which extends long enough to be under her chin and used to suck blood. The creature only appears at night. It is unknown where she is meant to sleep during the day, although it is suspected to be hiding underground. Guona invades homes without getting noticed and walks silently towards healthy young children to suck their blood in their sleep by sticking her tooth into their veins. She does not kill them, instead leaving them almost bloodless, so when they wake up in the morning they will be tired, pale and discolored, so looking like me. Guona also attacks adults. Why do all witches seem to hate children? It seems if you summon any of these witches, you'll be putting children in danger. Being drained of all your blood does not sound like a nice way to die. Nope. Coming in at number 5, we have Frau Perchta. This is a terrifying Christmas witch. Christmas is usually a time of togetherness, happiness, celebrations, and lots of food, right? Well, in Austrian and Bavarian tradition, people have a little bit more to fear. Everyone has heard of Krampus, the half-goat, half-demon that punishes misbehaved children at Christmas, but few have heard of the ruthless Frau Perchta. This old hag is not to be underestimated. Perchta is often depicted as a crone with an iron-beaked nose, dressed in rags and sometimes carrying a cane. The other thing she carries is a bit more sinister, a massive knife hidden under her skirt, and she certainly loves to use it. You don't get the nickname Belly Slicer for no reason. Legends say that the witch punishes bad children and rewards the good. Sounds a bit like Santa Claus, however a lump of coal sure beats what her punishment entails. Frau Perchta apparently hates children who are dishonest and will scrape their tongues if they lie. Unfortunately, being an adult won't save you from the Christmas witch. Frau Perchta has a thing about domestic cleanliness and will punish women if their homes aren't clean enough. Ladies also feel her wrath if they leave their flax unspun, but the punishment doesn't seem to fit the crime. By the 12th night, or January 6th, if your home is messy, your flax left unspun and you didn't leave out a bowl of porridge for her, Frau Perchta will slice open your belly with her long knife, remove your organs and fill your insides with rocks and straw. So if you want to avoid being disemboweled by Frau Perchta, maybe skip out on summoning her this Christmas. Coming in at number 4 we have Isabel Gowdy. Isabel Gowdy is a Scottish woman made famous for her extremely detailed confession of witchcraft in 1662. Unlike many other women at the time, she was not tortured for her testimony and willingly gave it on her own volition. Her confession apparently provides one of the more comprehensive looks into European witchcraft folklore at the end of the era of witch hunts. As a result, she was tried and allegedly executed. In her famous confessions that took place over several weeks, Isabel Gowdy spoke about the time she encountered the devil, who she described as having cloven-hoofed feet. She admitted to being in service to the devil, also claiming to have slept with him. Gowdy spoke in great detail about her coven's activities, like their abilities to shapeshift into animals. She detailed the different charms and chants she would use and also said she was once entertained by the Queen of Fairies in her home. The details surrounding her execution are muddied at best. There's speculation that she was strangled and burned, while others say she was most likely beheaded. Coming in at number 3 we have Jenny Greenteeth. Straight from English folklore is Jenny Greenteeth, a bit of a Party City looking witch if you ask me, but she's not someone to cross. This witch has a myriad of different names like Wicked Jenny or Ginny Greenteeth, but her MO is all the same. The water-dwelling hag is said to have an affinity for drowning the vulnerable. This legendary witch has a bit of a monstrous appearance with long arms, sharp teeth, and wild hair. Her skin is a grotesque shade of green and resembles duckweed, a type of weed that is one of Britain's most common small water plants. Because of this, she's often associated with ponds and rivers with the weed growing on it, and it's said to be an indicator of her presence. From the 19th century onwards, children have been warned to steer clear from bodies of water, with the threat of Jenny Greenteeth drowning them. It was also said that if they stuck around a pond too long, her long arms would drag them into the water. Elderly folks will also suffer the same fate should they not listen to the warnings. Fun fact, Jenny Greenteeth actually inspired Meg Mucklebones in Ridley Scott's Legend. In at number 2 we have Moll Dyer. Moll Dyer has a bit of a tragic backstory, but her legend still runs strong in the community in which she lived. In 17th century Leonardtown, Maryland, Moll Dyer was an old woman who was accused of witchcraft and ultimately suffered a fate similar to those of the Salem witch trials. Although historical records have yet to prove her existence, there were several Dyers in the area at the time, so it's possible that Moll was simply a nickname. Despite this, there's a street, a stream, and a large rock named after this alleged witch. Legend goes that Moll Dyer was an old hag who lived a semi-isolated life on the edge of town. The townspeople feared her, and the ambiguity of her origin sparked a flurry of rumours. Some believed that she had killed her husband and was on the run, and others believed she was driven out of her previous hometown. There was speculation that she was a healer, and after a series of misfortunes plagued the town, Moll Dyer was blamed and labelled as a witch. On a freezing winter night, the townspeople gathered outside of her home with torches and pitchforks in tow, setting fire to the ramshackle home. Moll Dyer narrowly escaped the angry mob and took off deeper into the woods. Several days later, her body was discovered frozen solid on top of a large boulder, with one hand stretched out to the heavens as if cursing her tormentors. In the years after her passing, they say that the lands became uncharacteristically barren, livestock died, and the men responsible for leading the mob suffered bouts of terrible luck. Today, Moll Dyer is said to haunt the lands in which she died and can be found on the coldest of winter nights. The imprint of her body is apparently still embedded on the rock that she died on and is even on display in the town. Many believe that Moll Dyer partially served as an inspiration for the entity from the Blair Witch Project. We all know how that ends, so I would not recommend summoning Moll Dyer. And finally, in at number 1 we have the Bell Witch. In the top spot is none other than the infamous Bell Witch. The legend of the Bell Witch haunting is a staple in southern United States folklore, and a terrifying story at that, so terrifying that it even captured the attention of a US president. In the early 1800s, John Bell and his family settled in Tennessee on 320 acres of farmland along the Red River. For their first 10 years, their life was good until one day things changed. Strange paranormal occurrences began to plague the family. They would hear pounding on the walls, chains rattling, and John Bell even saw a peculiar and unnatural looking creature. It had the head of a rabbit and the body of a dog. The haunting progressed, and soon the entity was snatching blankets off of the children as they slept and even began to develop a voice. The family would hear faint whisperings and what sounded like an old woman singing hymns. The activity only got worse and the entity began attacking the Bell's youngest daughter, Betsy Bell, leaving welts and handprints all over her face and body. Its voice strengthened over time and they would hear it quote quoting scripture, carrying on intelligent conversations, and still singing hymns. Word of the supernatural phenomena spread like wildfire and even garnered the attention of Andrew Jackson before he became the 7th President of the United States. When Jackson and his men went to investigate the claims, one man from his entourage was allegedly attacked by the Bell Witch and said he felt pins being stabbed into him and was being beaten severely. Some allege that Jackson later said that he would rather fight the British at New Orleans than fight the Bell Witch. Maybe for good reason too, because John Bell became the main subject of her wrath. The Bell Witch apparently tormented him and caused a steep decline in his health. John Bell eventually died and the witch took responsibility, claiming she had poisoned him. The Bell Witch is said to still haunt the property today and is regarded as one of the most famous pieces of Southern lore.
Number 5. Amy Stamatis, 2006. Amy Stamatis was a nurse living in Searcy, Arkansas, and working at a hospital in the nearby town of Little Rock. The then 49-year-old was writing reports and suddenly realized that she had completely forgotten her training and could not remember any of the details of how to do her job. Not being able to continue in the field that she had dedicated her life to, she was forced to resign her post. Despite having been a jogger for years, she suddenly found herself unable to engage in that activity either. One by one, the things that brought her joy were suddenly becoming out of reach. Her mental condition worsened with incidents of her hearing voices, removing her clothes in public, suddenly screaming at loved ones, and climbing a 7-story parking ramp with the intention of leaping off of it. Although police officers managed to talk her down from this incident, the voices she was hearing continued to convince her to commit acts of self-harm, culminating in her jumping from the 2nd-story window of her house, resulting in her becoming paralyzed from the waist down. While she was recovering in the hospital, she received a visitor, a Pentecostal evangelist named Cindy Lawson, who claimed to have successfully performed 10 real exorcisms before, having witnessed people's eyes changing colors during the ritual, and even a few cases of levitation. Lawson claimed that God had spoken to her and told her to go to the hospital where she would find Amy, who was unknowingly possessed by demons. Stamatis agreed to let Lawson perform an exorcism, and though she has no memory of how the event went down, family members who were present claimed to see an instant change in Amy after it was complete. Number 4. The infamous Arnie Johnson case. 1981. In 1981, a young boy in Brookfield, Connecticut named David Glatzel began having vivid night terrors. As time went on, these nightmares began infiltrating his everyday life, with him seeing haunting figures such as an old man with a white beard, a man with big black eyes and animalistic features and jagged teeth. He then began engaging in bizarre behavior like kicking, biting, seizures, and marks of strangulation appearing out of nowhere. His family reached out to Ed and Lorraine Warren, who concluded that David was possessed by a demon. Priests performed 3 exorcisms on David, which supposedly caused him to levitate. In the chaos, the boyfriend of Debbie, David's older sister, Arnie Johnson, confronted the demon and told it to leave the child alone and to take him instead. David made a full recovery, but the demon decided to take Arnie up on his offer. A few months later, Arnie stabbed his landlord to death, and upon apprehension claimed that the devil made him do it. His trial marked the first time in history that someone entered a plea of not guilty for reasons of demonic possession, although this plea was rejected. David was charged with manslaughter and served 5 years of his 20-year sentence, and ended up marrying Debbie Glatzer. Their story was loosely adapted into the 3rd Conjuring film, which follows Ed and Lorraine Warren's involvement with the case. Number 3. Roland Doe, 1949. In 1949, a young boy was mourning the loss of his aunt, who had been a deeply committed spiritualist who had taught the child how to use a Ouija board so that he could converse with spirits. The boy, whose name was changed to Roland Doe in the reports of the incident to preserve his anonymity, soon began hearing strange scratching noises coming from inside his bedroom walls, and having issues with his mattress vigorously shaking on its own. His parents took him to medical professionals who could find nothing wrong with the boy. When the family minister also failed to find anything, the boy's parents enlisted Father E. Albert Hughes, who received permission from the church to perform an exorcism on Roland. This attempt didn't end up working out, as Roland tore a spring out of his mattress during the ritual and slashed the priest across the shoulders. Upon inspection of Roland, his mother discovered that the word Louis had been scratched onto his flesh. She took this as a sign to go to St. Louis, where she met Father Walter H. Halloran and the Reverend William Bowdern. They attempted nightly exorcisms on the boy, during which the child was sent into a rage at the sight of a crucifix, caused the bed to rattle, and made items fly across the room. The clergymen found a large X scratched on Roland, which caused them to conclude that he was possessed by 10 different demons. On the 21st attempt, Roland gained control of himself, claiming that the spirits were gone, and that he had had visions of St. Michael fighting and defeating the devil on his behalf. Roland never suffered any further incidents of demonic interference again, but the story of his ordeal inspired the novel The Exorcist, which was adapted into the classic horror film of the same name. Number 2. Gottleibenditis, 1842. Our next entry takes us to the German village of Mottlingen in 1842. Residents of this sleepy village started to notice strange noises and odd goings-on at the home of a 28-year-old woman named Gottleibenditis, who believed that her house was being haunted by the ghost of a woman who was always seen carrying a baby in her arms. Ditis began being affected and would drift in and out of a trance-like state, seemingly blacking out for days at a time. The local pastor, Johann Christoph Blumhardt, took it upon himself to free Ditis of her affliction, which had lasted for 2 whole years before he got involved. He claimed that Ditis was possessed by several demons, as well as the spirit of the woman that she had reported seeing, who Blumhardt believed to be the ghost of a local murderous widow who had been known for burying children in a nearby field. The exorcisms he performed on Ditis were horrific, with her reportedly vomiting blood, broken glass, and even nails. The exorcisms continued until one day Ditis appeared to snap out of her possession, declaring that all the demons and spirits had been cast out and that Jesus was the victor. Number 1. Clara Seal, 1906. In one of the first documented exorcisms in South Africa, a 16-year-old orphan named Clara Germana Seal was staying at the Marion Hill Mission School in Umzinto when she began exhibiting violent behavior. The behavior became more and more extreme until one day the teen began growling, tearing at her clothes, and demanding to speak with the local priest, Father Erasmus Horner. Clara confessed to the priest that she had made a deal with the devil himself, and when the nuns tried to pour holy water on her, her skin began to burn. She would go wild and convulse at the sight of religious iconography, showed immense strength disproportionate to her size, and she began speaking languages that the young teen could not possibly know. When Clara began levitating in front of them, the priest and the nuns got permission to perform an exorcism on her. The exorcism was a wild ordeal, with Clara trying to strangle the priests, levitating at various times, and in perhaps the most horrifying and amazing moment of the ritual, transforming into a serpent who bit one of the nuns. The exorcism lasted for 2 full days and was performed in front of 170 people. By the end of the second day, the demon reportedly caused Clara to levitate one last time before leaving her body, never to return. Clara was demon-free, but unfortunately died 6 years later of heart failure at the age of 22.